Hey guys, Mike here from Sell Your Service, and I'm with Adam Hempenstall from Betterproposals. Adam, how you doing?
Very well, mate.
Good. We were disconnected earlier, so I was kind of hoping that it would carry on. Proposals and Proposal University. A lot of our funnel builders, have to write proposals as a big part of that kind of final closing process of getting the customer over the line. You've just brought out Proposal University, which seems kind of obvious. It seems like something that should have been out there for a while now. What do funnel builders need to know or do to start getting their proposals signed, closed, and get paid faster?
Well, I think the first thing is really just have a system in place, and whether that system is software or whether that system is a process that you understand really kind of doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I think you might as well leverage software. That makes sense in this day and age. But Proposal Writing University was really, it was sort of like us sort of rounding off everything that we've done. So, we have our software which helps walk people through the whole process of, building up a proposal, sending it out to a client, getting it signed legally, digitally, and then paid as well. Last year we came out with Proposal Design University, which was around the idea of sort of how to do color matching and how to make it look nice and how to do things on brand. And this was the final piece of the puzzle. So this was Proposal Writing University, which was the step-by-step on exactly what to say, when, the structure you should use, how you should present your offer, how to price things up, all that kind of stuff. So it's really just the final sort of piece of the puzzle, really.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you came out with this, and I've been watching the videos, and I'm a big part of the group, and obviously I use it as our thing. We just sent a 25 grand one yesterday.
But hey,
there is a system, and I think a lot of the time, even when we're building funnels or whatever kind of marketing process or any kind of process, any kind of product, we think that it's going to be bespoke every time, but there actually is a system for getting through and getting the customer over the line. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I think this is the biggest thing. I mean, a lot of people, we know from data, and we're about to come up with our new report for all of last year's data that just further confirms this. But the faster that you send your proposal, the better.
Yep. And
I think most of us know this, but it's the biggest thing that holds people back and stops people sort of closing things quickly and efficiently. Is it takes them ages, and the part of the reason for that is the procrastination.
Yeah.
And it's this idea that this is going to take me so long. Yep. I've got to go through the whole thing. It's like 15 pages. It's that idea that it's a long, laborious, boring job. And the fact is, it doesn't need to be. And really, the hardest part is just getting the introduction sorted. And if you can get that bit done, the rest of it's actually really, really simple. It's very easy. So what we recommend to people to do, and this is something that we did for years in our software and web design business before we sort of closed all that down and went sort of full-time with Betterproposals 4 or 5 years ago, was I'd always meet a client in a hotel reception area or lobby if you're American, and I'd do the meeting there and then, because as part of anything else, it's just simply a better place to do the meeting, and then send them on their way, sit back down again. And while it's all fresh in your mind, write the introduction there and then. And if that's all you write, that's okay. That's the bit that's really the most important anyway. And the rest of it's just facts, figures, and facts, really.
Yeah, I think it's that kind of intro piece, and we can see it as well, because obviously Betterproposals has like analytics inside, like what it is that people read. And I'm always fascinated. The cover letter and the pricing for ours are where people spend the most time, and those are essentially the two that they flick between. And that kind of opening introduction, that cover letter, I'm really just telling them what they've just told me in the meeting. We're just kind of repeating that. We're using the same words, the same language, and it's really just a case of write in the proposal what they have told you they're going to buy.
Yeah, that's literally it. It's just state their problem in their words, and state, and the goal that they want to achieve, and you're just telling them literally what they've just told you. I mean, I couldn't have said it better. And that's really it. And what you need to get across is not how good your ideas are or any of that kind of stuff. What you're actually trying to get across is that you just listened and that you understood them. And if you can communicate that part, they're prepared to listen to the rest of it. So the introduction is really just about getting buy-in on the rest of it. think about it like a headline on a marketing piece, right? That, the subject line for your guys. The subject line is the most important piece. Why? Because it pulls people in and gets them to open the email. The first sentence is the most important of the body. Why? Because it gets them to read the rest, etc., etc. So it's the same kind of thing, just on a sort of a slightly more sort of blown up scale.
It was interesting when we started using a template for our proposals, and obviously, again, Betterproposals has got tons of templates in there. We started working backwards and thinking, well, I know that that's what they're going to read to close the deal. What do I need to ask them in the meeting then to start like filling in the blanks? Because I just really want to put in the proposal what I need to. And it actually made our discovery process, like you said, like when you're kind of meeting them in the lobby or whatever, a little bit easier, because I actually then use that as the framework to start asking questions about their business. It seems so obvious and easy when you do it, but beforehand you're kind of thinking, oh my God, it's so complicated. You overcomplicate it in your mind.
You couldn't have said it any better. You should sort of do this for a living, mate.
You never know. Yeah.
But no, you're absolutely spot on, and that's exactly what it is. I mean, the point of a discovery session with a client is to do two things. One, work out three things really. One, if you can do it. If you're a funnel builder and somebody says, "Can you fix my car?" The answer is obviously no. You don't do that. The next thing is, do you want to do it? Is this the right client for you? Do they have the right budget? Can you do a good enough job to make yourself happy? All that kind of stuff. And then, then lastly, it's about, should they choose you? Do you know what I mean? It's like, that's like the third or fourth thing down the line, but really it's a discovery process for you to work out if this is the right kind of client. So in the process of coming up with all those questions to work that out, that actually forms, like all those things together, that actually forms what should be in the proposal. If you, like you say, if you work backwards, that's basically what it ends up being.
Yeah. So we've had our meeting. We then write up the introduction, and I'm the same. I do it. If it's not in the same building, it's within the same day, and I'll just write that up. As a funnel builder, I've got this information. What do I then need to start doing? Like, how do I get people over that line? How do I get over this procrastination?
Well, I think the first thing is realize the job is not as big as you think it is. That's the first thing. Good.
Yeah.
It's really not that big of a job. And you'll know this. If you've ever had a situation where you've sat down to write the proposal, and the second you get your mind back into it and you start thinking back to those conversations you had and, oh yeah, we could do this, and you start flowing with your ideas, you realize it's not that difficult of a job, and it just becomes harder the longer you leave it. So if there's even one takeaway here, it's just do the damn thing quicker. Just sit down immediately after that meeting. Obviously if you've got your system in place, you can leave it a little bit, but it's just easier. Just do it immediately after that meeting. Don't put anything else in the way. None of this going back to the office, Lark. Just stay where you're at and just get it done. And if that means you have to take sort of, an hour for your meeting and an hour for the proposal, fine. It won't take you that long, but just block those two things off together.
Yeah, it is. It's the putting it off. It's, in my mind, it was always like a bit of a horror movie. Like my mind would make it out to be way worse than the actual film was. And then as soon as you start, I think particularly pricing, we might talk a little bit about that. That was always the part that kind of freaked me out. But I think a lot of, and it's not just funnel builders, a lot of businesses that use proposals, they overcomplicate, and they're like, well, the customer said they want A, B, and C, so I need to think of a clever way of rewording what they say they want and what I think they need. But it doesn't need to be overly complex.
No, I agree, spot on. And pricing's a really funny one, and taking what somebody else wants or what they say they want and taking it literally is probably one of the easiest ways to screw up a proposal, I would say. Because they don't know. If they knew, they wouldn't be coming to you, would they? They would be going and hiring, like, I don't know, they would be doing it themselves probably. They wouldn't be coming to you as an expert. So what they're coming to you to do is to solve a bigger problem. And that's when you start to sell yourself on the idea of solving the bigger problem, that's when you can charge larger amounts of money. So if you take a website rebrand, for instance, and you break it down into all of its individual components, you can get everything an awful lot cheaper, because if you're saying, okay, right, I want you to convert this, Photoshop file or whatever into a WordPress theme, and I want somebody else to write the copy, and I want someone else to do the CSS and all that kind of stuff. You break it all down. That's when you get down to competitive pricing with other people. So you're like, oh, really? Well, it's this much for you to do that. Well, that guy says he's going to do it for this. You're comparing like for like much easier, or it's easier for them to do that. Whereas when you're saying, listen, what you're after is to double your lead count every month. That's it.
Yep.
You are currently doing 20 good leads a month. You want to get that to 40. We've got that for you. That's harder for somebody else to compare apples to apples, because they kind of can't, because you've still got your sort of like secret sauce in there as well. So it's much, much, much harder. So when they say, we want this, 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 and this, and they start giving you almost a shopping list, you kind of want to get away from that a little bit, because that's where they're going to sort of chunk it down and sort of get you on price a little bit.
And that's, again, why having this framework at the end and understanding the proposal that I'm going to use, like, these are the information pieces I'm going to fill in. And when you say, you're absolutely right, and we still get it now, customers saying, well, we think we need this and automation. And I'm like, okay, why? Why do you think you need that? And they'll then tell us the reasons. They're like, oh, it's to free up time. I'm like that why bit, the why you think you need that shopping list, that's what's going in the proposal. Because I know that's what you're going to buy. And just getting a little bit deeper, benefits, right? That's really what we're trying to put inside the proposal.
Yeah, the second you start to get down to technical stuff and all that kind of thing, that's when you lose. That's when you lose. And you've got to keep it very, very top level. The more top level it is, but with detail around the emotion and the why, that's
so true.
That's the key bit. So you don't get detailed in the technical, you get detailed in the why and the emotion and the cost of not doing it. So that's why things like, what's it, Frank Kern's
mass conversion,
consultative close.
Oh yeah.
Collaborative close.
Collaborative close. Yeah.
I mean, it's a famous one now. But the idea of asking those questions of, what does it mean if you achieve this in 6 months? What would it look like if you did? What would it look like if you didn't? All this kind of stuff. They're great questions to ask. The collaborative close is hilarious. When people try and do it to me now, it's just like, oh God, really? Have you sped up Frank's version? Because I don't, but like the questions were good. So like do them in your own way. But once you have that information, it's amazing how much you can just cut through the noise and make yourself stand out massively when, if they're going out to sort of 2 or 3 quotes, you can really make yourself stand out by addressing the actual concerns, the actual fears, and, really speaking to those goals.
And that's like the proposal becomes a document for them to be able to sell the business or employ another person or, grow to a second office. It's now no longer a marketing funnel proposal. It's like, oh my God, this is the document that allows me to do that next, like spend more time with the family, spend less time at the office. And again, like you say, through doing that, it is a collaborative close. But that's, again, I don't know what it is. I don't know why people think they need to put a breakdown of everything that they're going to be physically delivering into the proposal. It doesn't even fit where you put it.
I think what it comes down to is that what you do is not necessarily what they're buying.
Oh, I agree. Yep.
Like you might be a web designer, but they're not necessarily buying a new website. You might be a funnel builder, but they're not necessarily buying a funnel and copy. They're buying a strategy. They're buying more leads. They're buying, like you say, the ability to grow or to take on a second person or third person or whatever it is. That's kind of what they're buying. And when with that sort of intelligent questioning, you can really sort of get to a point where you can speak directly to what they're actually trying to achieve. But I think also because you live your skill, you think that's what they're buying, and it's a really easy trap to fall into. And I mean, in a weird way, I kind of still do it to a large extent when I'm writing on the marketing copy on our website and things like that. You still fall into that trap of thinking the features matter. And it's like, no, it's not it. That's not the thing. But it's just practice. You just have to try and catch yourself doing it, and then, learn what the alternative is, really.
So kind of switching gears here a little bit. You and I, we've known each other for a few years now, and whenever you're in the UK, the 3 or 4 weeks that you managed to come back to England, Betterproposals, you guys created this originally as a solution to your own software development company's needs, right? Take us through that.
Yeah, so we ran a web design company for about 13 years or so. I did that myself, and I started when I was a kid, basically.
Yeah.
And then at some point we shifted into doing software. So we'd go into companies, grill them on where the weak spots were, where all the bottlenecks were, and then we built them custom software based on our sort of CRM that we'd built. And we would, there'd be 50, 60 grand quotes, and we would go in and do all this stuff. The trouble was everything hinged on the proposal. So you could go from winning, getting 5 of these contracts a year, and that would be a great year, or you could get 1 and that would be not such a good year. And the difference is 4 yeses. That's it. So
I like that.
It really matters. So we just decided very early on that we were going to put an awful lot of time and effort and energy into making sure that we got the proposal right. Because if we got that right, it would be the difference between having a good year, a great year, and an amazing year. So that was kind of our focus. So we just obsessed over it basically for years and years and years. And I wanted to know what bits people read. So I said to Sabrina, our co-founder, I said, look, can you just get your guys and just knock up something very quick so we can, see what they're looking at. If they were opening it up, looking at the price, closing it down, I want to at least know that. So anyway, flash forward about a year or so, and this is what we're using for our proposals now. It's a very, very, very early version of what you now know as Betterproposals. And in the end, what happened was we were starting to win jobs based on the fact that they were saying, yeah, that's cool, we'll go ahead. And by the way, can you include that thing that you used to send me the proposal? Because I really like it. I'm like, this is kind of weird. Yeah. So we just, as a random experiment, just bought the domain name betterproposals.io. And just threw up a landing page, went snowboarding for a week, came back and had more leads sitting in an inbox for a product that kind of didn't exist yet that we had in the whole year for the software business. So we thought, right, okay, well, that's the goal then. So we made the process of transitioning from one to the other.
You see, and what's interesting about that is understanding that all of the meetings and the qualification and the consulting and the lead gen and everything, it all is going to come through to a point where the customer needs to go, this is what I'm buying and this is how I'm going to pay, like that physical payment. And you guys do have like that option in there. It's almost like, and this is why I don't understand it. And I've often said to my guys, closing the deal is the only activity in your business responsible for 100% of your revenue. And yet so many people kind of want to push it back. They're like, I procrastinate over it. I'm going to make it overly complex. But it just doesn't have to be. But your business relies on that activity.
Yeah, it's a really interesting way you've just put that the actual skill of closing is responsible for 100% of your revenue. Almost nothing else is. It's true. But I think there's a couple of things that people do that don't want to sound horrible, but
let's do it. Let's go.
They just screw it up with through fear, basically. So when somebody's coming to you and they're like, listen, we've got these issues and we're coming to you because you've been recommended or because I've read your book or whatever it is, I want you to solve this problem for me. You go through your discovery, and then what you send them in the proposal is essentially what they get at Tesco's when they go shopping.
That's exactly
it's like it's not a freaking shopping cart, you know? They are coming to you because they want a solution, and it's your job as the doctor, if you like, to put your white coat on and say, listen, this is what you need. This is what you need. You need to do this, 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 and this is what you need to buy. That's it. You shouldn't have multiple options. And a little bit of a spoiler, but when we looked last year at, trying to think about a month and a half ago, early January, at all of last year's data. And we wanted to make the the newest proposal report have more data than before. And we looked at a whole number of different things. And one of the things that we looked at was whether giving your client a choice of any description in the proposal had an effect on the transaction value. And what it turned out was, I can't remember the exact percentage, but I remember, I think the amount was something like you were £1,500 better off if you didn't give them a choice. If you didn't give them a choice. So if they had no options whatsoever, they were going to spend roughly £1,500 more than they would have spent if you give them a choice.
I think a big part of that comes down to confidence, and it's putting choices in my opinion, is the same thing of when people put, they make the proposal become like a thing of beauty. And that's not to say that, functional design works, but they'll go way over the top and the proposal becomes this whole like other thing and it becomes overly complicated. It's kind of like saying, I know that the thing that you need to fix this problem is this one thing. And we can do that. We can take care of that. It's going to cost you 25, 100 grand, 2 million to solve this problem. Great. Someone who's unsure about where they're going to go goes, well, you've got these few options because obviously I need to provide you with choice. And Seth Godin talks about in his book, This is Marketing. He says choice is wildly overvalued, wildly overappreciated. And it is really a sign of confidence compared to saying, this is how you fix the problem. Like the doctor who knows to fix your broken leg says, this is what we're going to have to do. They don't give you a range of options because they're the expert. They're coming to you. And
also they might have a range of options, but you're not qualified to make a decision about which procedure is the right one. Like, well, we can fix your leg in this way, this way, or this way. Which way do you want? Like, that's not what you're making a decision on. When doctors give you options, they're not really giving you options on the procedure. They're giving you options on the consequences of that.
That's a good point.
You know what I mean? So they might say, okay, this, surgery is going to put you out of action for 3 months, right? That's probably not what you want because you play football for a living. So we can go with rehab, which is quicker, but it might aggravate it again. Do you know what I mean? So you're not choosing between the procedure, you're choosing between the consequences of that procedure. And I think the same thing sort of applies when it comes to sort of proposals. But at the end of the day, it's simple. Don't give them choices. You're the doctor, if you like, and you've got to prescribe the solution and just own it. You have to just learn to own it. And if you look at anybody that's done well in any field, they will not be people that give options and choices and go, well, there's this $5,000 option, but wait, if that's too much, that's too much. There's always a cheaper option. There's always a cheaper option. And it's like, why do that? Why not just throw the 5 out there? And if they say, listen, that's too much, say, okay, well, what can you afford? And then you go from there, but let them say no first. You can always scale it back. It's kind of rare that you get like a flat no and they're not willing to negotiate further. Well, I'm glad you brought that up. I have never, ever, ever lost a proposal purely based on one price coming through. I've never seen that happen. If they've gone, well, that was a bit more than we were expecting, my personal response is to actually just ignore that and go, okay, thanks very much, sign here. Like, I don't see that as an objection personally. When people go, it's very expensive. Yeah, it is expensive. Sign here. Like, that to me is that they have to put up that resistance. But if they do want to say, look, we've had a think, we actually want to scale down to a 10 grand option. You presented 15. That's good. Like, you want that feedback and you're never going to get that unless you send the proposal in the first place. Yeah. And I think also it's like a little bit of a lesson. And, it's actually not that difficult to get leads. Yeah. If you really think about it, if you actually kind of put a decent amount of hours in, you've got a bit of a network going, there's enough leads to go around. So try this as in the back of your mind, you've got a number that you would feel uncomfortable saying to somebody to their face. Yeah. Like, would you, this isn't to you, this is sort of to everyone listening, but like, would you sit in front of somebody and say, that's going to be £10,000. That's going to be $10,000. That's going to be 50,000, 100,000. What number makes you feel like, oh, I couldn't say that one. That is too much for me. Like, everybody's going to have a different amount. It's probably going to be a round number. It's not going to be 7,723, is it? But everyone's going to have a number that makes them feel a little bit, oh, couldn't do that. I'm not worth that much or whatever. that's the amount that you should quote for your next thing, almost irrespective of what it is. Just see what happens.
Yep.
If they say no and they're like, look, that's a bit more than we wanted to spend, great. It was probably 4 times more than you were going to charge in the first place.
Yeah.
So to scale it back a little bit and then knock 1 or 2 of the annoying things off of the job, great, good job.
Yeah, that's awesome. I like that a lot. I haven't heard it put quite like that, so that's good. Yeah, what's the number that you'd kind of fear putting out? I like that. So now you've obviously got Proposal Writing University, and not to take anything away from design, but I know that we've won 6-figure contracts with like a Word document because it was well written. What is it about the writing of the proposal? Like, why Proposal Writing University? Why has that now come out? What is it that people need to know about?
Well, it's basically the simple, you've just answered it, really. It's that you could send a very bland Word document with the right words in it and win a job. If you sent a really nicely designed proposal with no words in it, it's not going to work so well, is it? It's just essential. It's just essential. But we wanted to do it right, and we wanted to make sure that we had fully understood exactly what was making things work. And I wanted a couple of years of data to really back that up as well. So there's quite a lot of points in Proposal Writing University where we refer back to data that we captured and that's in the report. So I just wanted those sort of couple of years of sort of consistent movement in the data to really kind of understand that. But it's just essential. It's just essential. You've got to get the writing part correct because it's a reading game.
Is there anything, I don't want to take away from the content or anything, and obviously we'll link to it down below, but is there anything that jumps out to you that, is a mistake that people are making or something they could do straight away on any proposal to do with their writing and their copy?
Yeah, stop writing about yourself.
Thank you. 100%. Yep.
Stop writing about yourself, or if you are going to do it in a bit more of a classy and subtle way.
Yeah.
It's amazing how many people go full tilt with this and think it really makes a difference. It does make a difference. It's a negative one.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not writing about yourself is a really big one. If you've won awards and they actually mean something, cool. Call yourself an award-winning something. Or if you're going to have a team photo, hold the award. Mm-hmm. You don't have to. It doesn't really matter what it is. If you've worked with different brands, cool, brilliant. Yeah. Use that stuff. But that's, social proof comes in many different sort of shapes and sizes. And I think people try and use writing about themselves as a way to do this. It's really not the place for it. So just merge it in with your other content. So that would be one thing. Another thing is case studies. People just don't include them. And we spoke about this ages ago when you interviewed the WP Innovation podcast years ago. People still don't get this right. I mean, they're starting to now because we've had the templates in there for years. So people come in and it's very much a given that you should include a case study. But the amount of people that take them out and put before and after shots of like logos and web design and stuff, I'm like, okay, great. And what happened when you redesigned that website? And it's especially things for your guys as well for funnel building. I mean, there really isn't a flashy before and after shot.
No.
You can't fall back on that. I mean, you can do it if you're a kitchen company. That's cool. Yeah. But if you do funnels, what is the impact of what you've done? It's a material result, right? So you just need to present that in a way of a little case study. That would be another thing.
Yeah, case studies are great. And I think one of the reasons we didn't do one for ages is because I was like, but we've only got one. And I was like, no, you still have to write that up. Like, fine, you've got one and maybe it doesn't suit every proposal. Fine. Now we've got like a library of like dozens of them because we just use the same template again, the template that's included in the software. Like we just put that in and we'll drag and drop them in depending on like what's appropriate. But that weirdly kind of complements the don't talk about yourself thing, because me explaining the results that we got for a company, that does say everything people need to know about my business.
Yeah. So you've just nailed it, and that's exactly it. You don't need to say, "Here's an about us page. We do this, we do that, we do the other. We're whatever." You don't. You say all that stuff in the context of a story about another company who also achieved the same thing that they're trying to achieve.
Yeah.
So in the templates, what we kind of frame this as is, instead of like labeling it case study, it was, "I want you to meet Jenny," or
That's
I
cool.
want you to meet Tom, or whatever. And it's a little bit intriguing. It's kind of a strange thing to write in a proposal. But then in that, it's just a case study. So it's just, here's a guy called Tom. Oddly enough, he wanted to increase his lead count every month or every year or whatever. So just positioning it like that a little bit is a nice sort of change of pace, and it mixes things up a little bit and keeps it interesting.
Yeah, and I think again, it's a sign of confidence to say, look, this is what we've done before, and this is what we're willing to show people. My brother, my younger brother, who did law up in Birmingham, he said that if you're a gold winning medal like athlete, no one cares about the silvers. Yeah. So like you will become known for winning one gold medal, not one gold medal and 2 silver medals. Just write the one tiny short paragraph about the gold medal. Don't go into your history, why you set it up, because they don't care. It's complete nonsense. They'd rather you write about them, frankly, or another company that you've done work for. So yeah, that's such a good point. That's really interesting. And I like the fact that you can back that up with a lot of data as well.
Yeah. That's it. I mean, the data for me is starting to really become a major signpost, and you'll see that a lot coming out if you follow our company at all. You'll see that an awful lot of our copy, a lot of our content, all that kind of stuff, a lot of it is going to be sort of surrounding the data. And one of the things that we have also gathered, another little spoiler for you, a little exclusive for you, mate.
This is good. All right. All right.
Is we've actually divided up the proposal report into different industries. So we've used the logic of who's added what templates to their account to determine what kind of industry they're in. It's not completely foolproof, because you might have gone and added the accounting template even if you're a web designer, but the chances are. So we've got some logic there as to who's in what industry, and split this out across 38,000 people. You've got a really decent amount of data there. So we've then got exactly the same report, 19 different things, and we've run the same thing across each of those different industries. And poor Sabrina had to calculate all of this out.
You're like, this is a great idea. She's like, yeah, thanks.
Yeah, well, I don't think the girl slept for 5 days, but yeah, no, it's worth it. It was a nice project to sort of cram into a very short space of time.
Yeah.
But what's really, really cool about it is it shows you that, interesting, when you're, web designers, for instance, marketers, coaches and consultants, finance, and there was another one, but property, I think. But yeah, I mean, basically it's really just down to that idea that you've got to use the data. You've got to use the data. It's there. It's there to be used. And, never before has there been a company that's been in our position that's actually bothered to do reports. And actually sort of publish this information. So use it. It's quite rare, and I don't know if there's any other companies that are actually doing it to this level. So it's definitely worth keeping an eye on.
Awesome. Well, we'll obviously share that when it comes out. The previous year's one was really, really insightful. Speed more than anything. That was the one that I was like, we don't mess around with.
That blew my mind. That did. I couldn't believe how potent it was. So I think this year it's gone down slightly. So I think last year your conversion rate would be up 25% if you sent it within 24 hours compared to 3 or 4 days. This year it's about 17%, I think. So it's down a little bit, but some of that could just be down
That's still massive. That's almost a fifth. That's still huge, I think.
But it's clear. It's a very clear. It's really, really clear. But I think at the end of the day, you've got to just, when you're thinking about your proposals and that, you've really just got to think, okay, this is something you've got to nurture. And, it's like any kind of relationship or anything that needs work. You've got to nurture it. You've got to nurture it and build to it and add to it and tweak it and think about it and whatever. And that template or, your system that you use for your proposals, if you look after it, it will look after you hundredfold. So yeah, put effort into learning about it and how to improve it and get better at writing proposals. I mean, it's something that your audience should in theory be very, very good at because of the nature of writing and selling funnels,
I think if we're putting our hands up and being honest, it's still a big roadblock for a lot of people. And again, I equate it to when you learn to write at college or university. The way we are taught to physically write is not how people read, and that's not good copy in the real world. And it's kind of the same when we see proposals and documents from when we have our first jobs and we see what a proposal looks like, and they're pages and pages and pages, and most of them are just contracts, really. Like, that's not a proposal. Like, the proposal really, in my mind, should be like, I'm going to assume the sale. The customer just needs something to click and sign and go, yeah, that sounds great. That's the price. Like, it's not necessarily the final conversion piece. And I think a lot of people overcomplicate it because of what we've seen and what we've been taught beforehand. But, if someone says, look, I really want to grow my business so that I can sell it. Great. I've got a document here that's going to help you grow your business so you can sell it. It's going to cost 25 grand, sign here. Like, it doesn't need to be like thicker. There doesn't need to be more content. It doesn't need to, to pad it out. I even hear people saying, well, what do I pad it with? I'm like, nothing. If you could do it with one page and you get 100% conversion, do it with one page. Like, you don't need extra stuff just for the sake of it to make it look better.
I think it was an old Dan Kennedy quote, but somebody said to him, how big should I get my ad space?
Yeah.
He said, well, write the ad first, and then write the perfect ad, and then work out how big of an ad you need to put the ad into it. And that's it. And it's the same kind of thing with the proposals. How long should my proposal be? Well, I can give you some data and I can say it should be 6 sections long on, using Betterproposals. If you're familiar, you'll know what that means. But that doesn't really help in any way. The true answer is it's as long as it needs to be to get the job done, and no longer than that. It shouldn't be longer. And sometimes people can go overboard with putting too much information in, and then they end up just confusing people. So you've got to try and remember that a lot of what you're going to be writing about here naturally is going to be outside of their comfort zone, which is why you've got to put as much in about them as you possibly can to bring balance back. But at the end of the day, confused people don't get their credit card out and type numbers in. They don't pay for things. So you've got to try and remember that you've got to leave them assured and trusting you and confident that they're making a good, smart decision. What you don't want to do is have them reluctantly signing up thinking, oh, don't know if this is right. That's not a good state to be in, which is why I'm always trying to get people to keep your pricing section as simple as it possibly can be, and do your selling elsewhere, and just try and keep the pricing dead simple.
That is it.
You see this a lot. People overselling, and with Betterproposals, you've got your pricing tables and all that kind of stuff. People type so much stuff in there. It's crazy. And one of our most requested features is, why is there no editor on the pricing table thing? I'm like, put an editor on that thing, because if you enable that, people are going to use it. So it's like, look, it should be short for a reason. So just keep the right things simple and expand on the right things as well. And if you get that balance right, you'll always be fine.
That's awesome, man. I just want to end with one final point. Something you explained to me on the first ever call that we had, again, probably on the WP Elevation podcast, which is still out there, guys. I'll link to it below as well. You said the number one thing that people fail to do is put a clear call to action in their proposals. And now your proposal templates are almost like aggressive with that. They're like, this bit here, this is the thing you need to do. Talk us through that nice and quickly, because I want to be respectful of your time. Talk us through why is that? It's like we've got so far, and yet people, in my opinion, they then go, so has anyone got any questions? It shouldn't be, right? It's like, you need to sign here and give us some money.
Yeah. Well, I think this is it. I mean, you could almost cut and paste what I said 2 years ago and just slot it in right now, because it's the same thing. People don't include, I mean, if they use the templates now, they generally do, but But yeah, it's amazing how many people don't provide just a simple call to action at the end. So just explaining what needs to happen next.
Yeah.
And just the act of doing that is, it's quite a mentally difficult task to spend time reading through a proposal of something that you don't understand and make that decision. It's mentally draining. So the last thing you want them to do is have to try and figure out how to buy from you at the end. The last thing you want. So just have a page called Next Steps, or a section, or whatever you want to do. So it's super simple. Just call it Next Steps. And then you just simply write some variant of the following. We'd love you to become a client. Here's what you need to do next.
Yep.
Number 1, type your name below and press accept, or whatever your next instruction is. Number 2, we will arrange a call and blah, 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 blah. Number 3, we will send you a invoice for a deposit, or whatever the situation is. If you're using Betterproposals, your step 1, 2, and 3 could be sign below, pay your deposit on the next page, and then you'll be asked to set up a call using Calendly or whatever. So you can have those stages in there now. So you just want to make it simple for them. Everyone can get their head around the idea of typing their name, booking a date for a call, and paying a deposit. Everyone can get their head around that. So don't confuse it with other stuff. Don't try and tell them about their responsibilities that are going to be important 6 months down the line. Just get them over the line and just get that next bit done.
Yeah,
such an easy thing to do, and so many people leave it out.
Yeah, they do. And we do a lot of our calls live, and we even say like, look, we can get started today. We just need you to sign, and I can even take a payment via this page. I can literally take the deposit or take the initial payment up front. And they like that because I'm the expert, right? I know what to do next. They want guidance. They want counsel. And
isn't that the kind of company that you'd want to work with?
Great point. Yeah.
Is it like, if you're dealing with a company that doesn't know how to push you over the line, how are they going to help you achieve the same thing? It's in other industries you might get away with it a little bit more, but if you're in the interest of increasing leads or doing anything with funnels or anything like that, I mean, it's you've got to lead by example.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much for jumping on. I'm really glad that we had this conversation. How can people find you and reach out to you?
So everything we do is at betterproposals.io. You can stick a link below there, and I won't read off the whole URL for Proposal Writing University, but you can check that out at the link below. It's all free. There's no opt-ins. There's no money to pay. It's completely free video and text-based training. So you can just sort of watch the video part, and then there's sort of expanded points written below. But go through that. It's a nice primer. There's tons of templates on your template is in the marketplace as well. So if you,
of course, the funnel template.
So if you want a good starting point on how to present a proposal for selling funnels, literally, and then go in, sign up to Betterproposals for free, go into the templates and then the template marketplace, and then if you just type the keyword in funnel, it finds it.
Perfect. And I think I've got a link for like 30 days free or a full month free as well. So I'll put that in the link below. Mate, thank you for coming on. I'm loving the beard as well. I think it's a good look for you.
Yeah.
All right. I'll speak to you later.
Awesome. Take care, mate.
Cheers, man. You too. Bye.